Hi, Caitlin. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Bonnie.
I just want to welcome you and everybody, all of our listeners this morning, to our conversation. And for all of you listeners, I want to introduce Caitlin Daley of Face the Tiger. And this morning, we're having a conversation about how community and collaboration within that community can really help us all grow our business. Caitlin, you want to take a second and just introduce yourself and your business?
Sure, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here and have this discussion with my friend Bonnie today. My name, as Bonnie said, is Caitlin Daly. I'm a life and leadership coach, and my company, as Bonnie mentioned, is called Face the Tiger. And I believe that we all have the capacities within us to create the impact we would love in this world. So I work with female entrepreneurs and business owners in connecting with their authentic leadership power so that they can unlock their ability to live a life they love with deep meaning and purpose, along with a business that they love.
Awesome. I love that. And for all of you listeners, I just want to say that Caitlin is amazing in her coaching and has really been a lot of help to me in growing my business. So thank you for being with us, Caitlin.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the kind words.
So I just want to open this up a little bit. And just for the listeners, this is our first episode. And we really thought it was important this morning to just kind of open the conversation with how we've been working within our community and collaborating with other coaches, and other business professionals in ways for all of us to grow our business. And so, Caitlin, give me your perspective, if you will, on bringing community and honestly, I guess, bringing collaboration into our communities, our professional communities.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to start with this concept of collaboration. So, the way that I think about this and how I use my community, my friends, and my colleagues in a way to help me increase my impact and ability to serve in the world is I think of it kind of like a system, right? And in a way, systems can run on their own and they have like deep purpose, right? There's a reason that ignite certain systems in our lives, and we can think of like a routine similar to a system, right? It's a little bit plug and play, but it does need to be designed thoughtfully. So I sort of think about my community and collaborators in this way. The first thing that I always ask myself when inviting myself into a community or inviting someone else into mine is, are we sharing the same values? So when I go to collaborate with someone, similar to us, how we work together, Bonnie, I really want us to have a level of shared language, of shared purpose. And we can differ in certain views, right? But when we come together, I'm really looking for an easeful, enriching, an expansive experience because that's what I would love in my business and in my life. So I really look to my community almost as like a little bit like a friend, right? Who would I like to hang out with? And then the other thing I start to look at is really better understanding, one, what would I love? What do I want from this individual or these individuals? But also, how can I serve them? I think a community is really made up of really deep one-to-one interactions. And then together, we can come together and shared trust and shared values to create momentum collectively in each of our unique paths. So I really look and I ask myself the questions like, can this person act maybe as a mentor to me? Do they have a skill set that I'm lacking? Are they lacking something that maybe I can help to fill that gap? And then in turn, oftentimes I really look to my community to help keep me at, a high energetic vibration. As an entrepreneur, it can be a very lonely experience. And sometimes practicing resilience is hard, right? We don't always get the outcomes we would love. So having a community that I can almost lean on or ignite and sort of get a flood of possibility and a flood of belief reflected back at me really keeps me coming back into those spaces.
I really love that perspective. And I love how you really formulate that. It's a give and receive
Yeah.
relationship. And I really like how you bring what you want to expand on in your own life and in your business, and really take that into account when you're talking about community and collaboration. And I think that one of the things I'd like to touch on is, we have, as you and I have gotten together, both one-on-one and also in a mastermind group, um, the differences in those relationships when you talk about
Mm.
collaboration, right? And then really, for me, I think I find that the mastermind group is uh, a different kind of relationship, but also one that is better at the keeping me on point, keeping me uplifted and supported in growing my business and in staying the path. Kind of like you say, man, entrepreneurship can be so hard, and lonely. You find like, whoa,
Yeah.
you're alone. So having that kind of support. So what are your thoughts on collaboration versus like a mastermind group?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And I think you're bringing up like a really important point, and that is we can have different communities for different reasons, right? And I think the important thing is being really thoughtful and purposeful about why I'm going into certain communities. And for me, a mastermind, to your point, is really about, two or more people coming together to solve big problems as a collective and pull on the different experiences and talents and capacities of the group to raise each of us and to help us serve more wholeheartedly, to be more impactful and to live the lives that we would love, right? So we use the collective power of the group in order to do this. And I also find, and I think you are hinting at this, Bonnie, a mastermind can provide a certain level of accountability. So, when we're on our own, especially if we kind of work from home in these sort of contained environments, it can be really easy to brush things off. And if there's not someone coming down on us every day saying, like, hey, where are these 5 things that I asked for? Our motivation can soften a little bit, even if that's not what we want. So to me, a mastermind really comes together to form like more of a growth container that together we're going to come together and we're going to grow in whichever direction we decide. So this could be growing emotionally. I'm going to increase my capacity to do hard things. I'm going to use this mastermind to shift my mindset all the way down to, I'm having trouble getting this Facebook post up and I need support from the group either to help me with the technology or to hold me accountable. So when we meet again, I'm going to have all this done. Whereas a community, I think it doesn't necessarily provide that level of brainstorm. It doesn't necessarily provide that level, like that very pointed and focused objective of increasing our energetic vibration so that we can be more creative. I mean, I think, sometimes that will fall out of certain communities, but the mastermind to me, having that smaller container is really about holding each other accountable for creating momentum.
I love that. And one of the things I would like to add is I do love that at least in our mastermind group, um, there's space to have a difficult conversation.
Yes.
I know, you and I were talking the other day about when I brought something up, and I know that we can have an uncomfortable conversation. And if I bring something up and it shines a light that you see something that I haven't seen in my own actions or thought process, that I love having that space. And I love the mastermind for that because it's more intimate, I guess, than the whole community, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a good point, Bonnie. And I think, when I think about our mastermind and even other masterminds that I facilitate, it is about creating a container of safety, right? So that we feel we can have the platform, right, to be more creative, to be more solutions oriented, and even to practice our vulnerability because that's where we grow, right? We go to the edge of our comfort zone and having a an intimate group of people that you've decided that like, okay, I'm going to practice these different capacities around and I know it's going to be okay even if I feel unskillful or weird or uncomfortable, right? It helps us to increase the edges of our comfort zone. It's a wonderful point, Bonnie.
It definitely does that. And um, I love how this is bringing the whole thing together of what opportunities a professional community gives us. There's opportunity for collaboration and there's opportunity for mastermind groups. And there's collaboration in that, kind of cross referral, that whereas like in our mastermind group, all three of us are coaches, but we all focus on different things and having those little, variances and the different niche, if you will, allows us to be able to say, hey, if somebody comes to me and says, I'm really looking for business growth, well, that's not my forte. But hey, I know Caitlin and she's amazing at that. And being able to do those cross referrals at the same time when you're within a community, knowing that there's no competitiveness, it's more about collaboration. It's more about everybody growing and not having to be fearful that someone's going to, get in the way of that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the word that comes to mind as you're talking is diversity. So, in our group, right, we all happen to be coaches, but as you said, we all specialize in totally different topics and ways of being, right? And I rely on the members of our group to help me increase my capacity in those areas personally, not necessarily professionally, but then I can apply that to my business. So I think, the thing that I love about community, right, is that there's an opportunity to experience diversity in a way that helps me to expand what is possible in my own life, right? And in my own business. Because if I have a diverse community of like-minded individuals where we're coming together in collaboration and mutual support and respect, that means that all of a sudden in theory, have doubled the size of my business, tripled the size of my business, and my internal capacity to do things like market myself or collaborate with new clients or expand my own capabilities. So I think that, thinking about community in that way, how can my community fill in the gaps that I experience in my business so that I don't have to do everything by myself and I don't have to go it alone. I mean, we're stronger together. That's kind of what comes to mind as you're talking.
I love that perspective and I love that being stronger together, that always, working together is better than working alone. And yet, as entrepreneurs, as you said, you use the word lonely, but it's true, entrepreneurship, and we think, well, this is me, this is my business. When we open ourselves up, I think the learning ability and allowing ourselves to become more vulnerable, we become more human. And as such, we can connect so much more deeply, not only with our community, but with our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, one thing that I try to do is um, try to get to know members of my online communities. So, when we have an offline community, like maybe a networking group that we like to go to consistently, or a friend group or a professional group, it's a little bit easier, right, to develop those intimate connections within the group and increase maybe our capacity to be vulnerable. But I started doing that in my online groups as well. So I am part of like different Facebook groups, and I make it a point to connect with people that seem interesting to me in those groups that I would just love to have a open conversation and dialogue with, not necessarily for the purpose of getting something or even giving something, but just really to start to put um, like an energy to like a profile picture, if you will. And I think those types of things I have found in my own experience really allow the power of the group to grow. Because now when someone posts something in this big forum, I really know who that person is, and it resonates with me in a way that it just couldn't if I had never met that person online on Zoom or on the phone.
Right. I love that. And I love that reference to the energy because everything we do, right, is an exchange of energy and making those connections and exchanging that energy. And it really kind of helps us connect more to our community, to growing our I feel like I love the word that you use, expansion,
Yeah.
right? Because I feel like that does it every time there's an energy exchange and every time we get to know somebody or someone gets to know us, there is a connection. And I love that as we connect our energy, it really just puts me in mind of a meditation that I really love where we join our energy. And I feel like community is really very much that, right? That we want to connect our energy. We want to create that connection so that we can all expand together and grow together.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of brings to mind when I think about how I kind of use my community in my, let's say, daily routine and schedule. And, I exactly what you're saying. I find that I almost schedule in time with my community, either going into a larger online group or offline group and interacting with people, but also going into smaller groups and in certain masterminds that I'm part of, including ours. And I find that energy exchange allows me to go off on my own to do the things that I need to do as a business owner, and knowing that there are people out there, right, that are like holding space for me, holding space for my success is so special, and it's so powerful. And that I think you mentioned this at the beginning, there is a cycle of giving and receiving. And I would say if your community really resonates with you, it's also grounding. And you don't need to be around them very long to kind of get back into that grounded, energetic vibration so that you can give to your community, give to your business, give to your clients, whatever it is, and then receive all the goodness that comes back.
I think there's so much truth to that. And I think that in the power of, giving and receiving, and there's so much written and studied on giving and receiving. But, I find that the community also, at least for me personally, does teach me a little bit more about receiving as well as giving,
Yeah.
because I think that we put ourselves in a position, and especially as coaches, right? We give so much to our clients and we give so much space, and the ability to take some of that energy back to refill our own tanks, is so important. And so I love that, whole circle of giving and receiving.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious to hear from you, Bonnie. How do you see that playing into your own community, the one that you're facilitating?
Well, I think that, really trying to get people to understand how to exchange energy and how important the exchange of energy is. Um, I think there are a lot of communities out, and like you, I'm members of a lot of groups. I've met a lot of amazing people, from these groups on Facebook. But I also find that there is a lot of places where people talk about collaboration, but maybe it's not in the same expanded mindset.
Yeah.
We talk about collaboration, and what I see is sometimes people are talking about collaboration means, you and I are going to do a project, X project, right? And that is a collaboration in a way. But what I really like to focus on is in a bigger picture, where we're supporting each other, where we are creating a safe space for people to create smaller groups within the community, like what we're talking about, whether it's go and have coffee. And I love virtual coffees. I miss the fact that we can't have real coffees anymore since you relocated. But I love that we can still have coffee. I have a friend in Florida. We have coffee, to have that energy exchange, to support each other and allow you space. I think that that's just the thing for me. My goal here is to create a community that truly is an energy exchange where everybody is uplifting everybody and people can get a palpable feel from this community.
Yeah, the word that comes to mind, Bonnie, as you're describing your community is possibility, right? The community opens up all sorts of possibility when we can lift our energy together. Then what happens? We can sort of go down our own unique paths, right? And when we have a community, when we have that container, there's so much potential within that.
Agreed. And I know that I love that potential, there's infinite possibilities, right?
Yeah.
And just it's exciting to me to create an environment where people can come and people can feel supported and people can feel positive. And like you say, I know that from experience, when I leave one of our mastermind groups, when I feel supported and like, wow, I really just, the energy transference was, palpable, then I know that I'm going to get so much more accomplished, you know, in my own business, or in my personal life. I'm going to make better choices. I'm going to think twice before I make a choice. Um, and I think that, it's interesting, those words, the mindful living space community. It's about being mindful, right? And that's when you come from a place of your own power, right? Then we have the space to be mindful and make better choices. And whether it's professional or personal or, whatever that choice is or that decision, I think that knowing that you're supported gives us more room to,
Yeah.
be in touch with ourselves.
Yeah, knowing that you're supported, right? And I think, that word you use is mindful. And I'd be curious to hear, how you might define that. But you know, as you're talking, I'm really noticing the importance of getting to know each other within the community because, there are Facebook groups that I've been part of in the past where they're huge, like thousands of people. And I went into it thinking okay, I'm going to get all this information. I'm going to meet all these people. And I almost felt lost in it. It just felt like a second feed to my Facebook feed. And and I think you're pointing out what for me the gap was. And it's that like, am I really supported here? And so getting to know your community that you're in, to making the effort to do that, deciding, right, I'm going to be a supportive member of this community, or at least endeavor to be, because I can always leave if it doesn't work for me, but really being thoughtful about that. And I think that to me, that comes back to that word mindfulness, right? And purposeful.
100%. And I think that, for me, mindful is, when I created my business, it was important to me that be that word, that mindful be in the name, because for me and for my life's journey, it comes back to what living by default or by design, right? And the word mindful is where that comes from. Being aware of the choices that we make and being aware of where we want to go. And, I know we've talked about this before, but that's what my coaching focuses on, is getting us to where we want to go, but knowing where we are. And sometimes we are not, sometimes we say things or do things that maybe aren't in our own best interest, whether it's, I don't know, eating an Oreo cookie or, stepping in front of a car when you're not looking. But even if you catch it, like, oh, that wasn't such a good choice, that's being mindful. And,
Yeah.
it grows. I don't think that, most of us are not going to hit, that perfect on the mountain on the enlightenment, but being mindful of what we're doing and doing things, like, as you said, purposefully, the businesses that we create, the jobs that we take, whatever that is, if we're mindful of how that makes us feel, if we're mindful of in our communities. When I go to have coffee with somebody, I'm mindful of that person's energy and my energy.
Mm.
And it allows me to, know, are we a good connection? And do I want this person in my small community? I think that there's room for everybody in a large community. But when we get to, as you mentioned earlier, and I loved this about making sure that core values are in alignment. And is this somebody who expands your universe or not? You know, um, and all of that to me is tied up in that word mindful.
Yeah, and what I hear, and I'd be curious to sort of hear more from you about this, but what comes to mind is this idea of like feedback, right? Like our ability to really start by listening to ourselves. I mean, tell me where I'm wrong here, but what I'm hearing is, knowing what we want, knowing where we want to go, having the capacity to be present with our intuition, with our reality, having that North Star in mind, of course, and then really, understanding how can this community help me, support me in getting to that North Star. Tell me a little bit more about that.
100%. I think feedback is important. I think that not only our own feedback, I think that when you have a community, and especially, the larger that our community grows, the more opportunity there is for we all have something to give, but we also all have needs. And when you have a larger community, you have so much more to choose from. But learning, as you mentioned, to connect with yourself, to connect with your why, to connect with your path, because that sometimes, I mean, for me, I know that communities, I know that I meet somebody who I might be thinking about, what I need to do for a better health path. And then, the universe brings me an Ayurvedic practitioner, right? Um, but I might meet, a functional medicine doctor and an internal doctor and a Ayurvedic doctor or a mystic healer. And there's room for all of those in my life, right? But for most of us, one or two of those are going to um, connect, resonate more strongly than others. And that's where I think it's important that we know ourselves and at least start to listen to ourselves. That when I might talk to a functional medicine doctor, my energy connection might be stronger, or it on any given day for me, it could be that mystical healer that I really need. Somebody to just help me increase my energy or clear my chakras. There's so many different modalities out there, so many different niches that a community gives us the opportunity to say, what do I need today?
Yeah, and I'm hearing um what's sort of coming to mind is that everyone comes into our life for a reason, right? And that reason could be to teach us something that we haven't yet learned or something we need to relearn. But every interaction is an opportunity for us to grow and even get feedback about ourselves and what we want.
100%. And sometimes that
Yeah.
feedback that we get is uncomfortable. And sometimes, when we talk about everyone comes into our life for a reason, sometimes that reason is something that I haven't yet dealt with.
Yeah.
I might meet somebody that really strongly makes me go, and then I have to stop and again talk to myself. What was that about? And how can I grow from that? Um, again, I think that community gives us, especially in this world today where everybody is, so many of us are sitting behind our computer screen, right? And I think that through the pandemic, we lost so much community. But I'd also believe that it gave us the opportunity to grow, to grow our communities through the internet and to really be able to reach out and touch so many more people than we ever would have before.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I connect with women all over the world in a way that I didn't, 10 years ago, or I couldn't, right? We're all, I think, we're really noticing, I think, as like a human race, the importance of having collaborators and chosen family even and friendships in our lives, right? And being more flexible with what that looks like. Because to your point, and I think the point we keep making is community is really a lever. It's a tool to help us grow as individuals, which allows us to show up more strongly in the world, more authentically in the world. And that's where like the impact and power to me it comes in. If we allow it to a community can help us to really connect deeply with who we are. And we
I
can
love that.
and we become ourselves together, not alone in isolation, right? It is together that we become our best self.
I agree. I think that we empower each other. And, I think that, like you said, we grow stronger together, which gives us that inner strength to be. But I think also, I think the importance of community, like to your point, when you're in a like-minded group, then you do have the space to be vulnerable. You have the space to be you, to find your own power, your own light, and your own beauty, and feel that and feel good about that. And, so many of us in our lives, we grew up not being able to shine our light, right? Not being able to be who we are, to have our own identity and our own boundaries, and creating a community of like-minded energy transference empowers us to be who we really are and like you keep saying, and to grow with that. And I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, I think about my own experience. The last company I ran, I was insular. I was a founder of a technology company. I had these big ambitions for myself, but I didn't seek community in that. And I really believed that I had to be successful before I could join in a community, before I could presence myself. But when I chose to launch Face the Tiger, I made a decision that I'm going to do it differently because last time it felt really painful. And so I don't know if I'm going to be successful in doing it differently, but for me, having community and meeting with people, unexpected people, like such as you, Bonnie, have really helped me to step into myself. I mean, if it wasn't for you and our connections and our consistent meeting and accountability sharing, I don't think I could have gotten to where I am today. So thank you. But also, I hope this message resonates with many people because we are together and we can become who we would love to be. To your point of helping people navigate where they want to go, community, I believe, is a pillar of that.
I love that. And yeah, I think that really is going to resonate with a lot of people. I know that, I'm talking to a lot of people, and that seems to be a really common theme. And so I love that you were here with me today, Caitlin. This has been an amazing discovery conversation. And I hope that, our followers, I hope that they're going to enjoy the conversation and really get something out of this as well.
Yeah,
So
thank you, Bonnie. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
thank you. And for all of you listeners who are out there or watchers, if you will, we appreciate you being here. And please, we really want to hear your comments, hear your thoughts. So keep the conversation going. Post your comments, post a video if you'd like with your comments. We would love to hear from you. And for anybody who's interested, we're going to go ahead and put Caitlin's link underneath the video. So if you'd like to reach out and chat with Caitlin, feel free to do so. Thanks for being here today.